guys, UOttawaScotty here. Figure I'm going to start doing a couple guitar lessons on my channel. So this is going to be for beginner guitar players. I've done a lot of guitar teaching over the years, so I figured I would share that knowledge with you guys. And this is going to be for beginner, but also intermediate, but mostly for beginner. We're going to start off today with some very basic stuff. First things first is this is a what's called a 6-string steel string acoustic. A lot of people mix up the steel string with a nylon string acoustic guitar, otherwise known as a classical guitar. That instrument, the nylon string, 6-string acoustic guitar, whatever you want to call it, that is a completely different instrument than this. Okay, so I should say they're completely different, but they are different enough that you know, they require two completely different techniques. What we are going to be focusing on is the steel string acoustic, this guy here, which is basically what most people start off learning with. So so we're going to focus mainly on this guy here. It's really fun. If you've never played guitar before and want to learn, I would highly recommend sticking with this video series. When you're starting out on guitar, your fingers are going to be pretty weak, and you have to build up the calluses on the ends of your fingers. So it is quite painful and awkward when you first start playing, but rest assured that goes away pretty quickly. Especially most people, when they start playing guitar, they get pretty excited. So you know, you're practicing a lot, so on and so forth. You're going to develop that the calluses on the ends of your fingers pretty quickly. So the steel string sits on your this leg right here, like this, and rests on your, if you're right-handed like me, you would play with your left hand, and it would rest on your right knee. That's the natural position for that. Part of the reason for that is the shape of the neck. You see the neck of this guitar is fatter at where it meets the body, and then it tapers as it goes down the neck. So it gets smaller here and it's fatter up here. The nut here is not flat, okay? It's got a curve to it. And so down here on the fingerboard, the curve of the fretboard is more than it is up here. It's more, it sort of gets flatter, as I don't know if that's true or not. That is actually not true. On this guitar, the radius of the fingerboard is the same all the way. There are guitars that you can get that have a what's called a compound radius, and what that means is that it's more curved here and flatter here, and typically you would find that on a electric guitar meant for playing metal, so that you can do all the sweep picking, and the stuff that I can't do. So this, so there is a curve to this neck here. And that is significant because it really dictates how our hand plays the fingerboard. The nylon string guitar, acoustic guitar, has a very wide neck. If I was to estimate, it's probably about that wide. And the neck on a nylon string is the same width all the way down to where the nut is. Not only that, another important aspect is that on the nylon string there is no radius on the fingerboard. The fingerboard is actually completely flat. So and in other things too, in the steel string there's more tension on the instrument, so you'll see here there's a little hole there with a little Allen key, because there's a rod that runs down the length of this neck here, and that can be adjusted to set up the guitar with the height of the strings, so on and so forth. So the nylon string guitar, because they're nylon strings, there's not as much tension on that. So on a nylon string, you don't have a truss rod. It's literally just the a flat neck all the way down. Yeah, and there's nothing there. There's no radius or anything like that. So it's so yeah, there's some really important differences there. And so because the nylon string acoustics, the fingerboard is so fat, so wide and flat, you actually have to play that guitar quite differently. So instead of it resting on your right leg, it would rest in between your legs like so. And the reason why it rests in between your legs like this is because usually you don't play with the pick, you're playing with your fingers. And in order for your arm to be straight here and be able to pluck the strings, it can't be like this, or else it's not really ergonomically efficient. The other thing too is because the neck is so wide and flat, what we have to do is with our fretting hand, sort of a different technique. You know, the thumb is behind the neck all the time, essentially on a nylon string, and the arm is kind of like coming up this way. Okay, yeah, Merry Christmas. So you can see that the differences in the actual instrument lend itself to a completely different playing technique. So steel string here like this, nylon string like this, because of the actual design of the instrument. So some very important points. If you try and play a nylon string guitar like this, you're going to have a really hard time, because the steel string acoustic with the thin neck is meant to have your thumb wrapped around it like this, like a baseball bat. And you know, if it's a huge neck, huge fat neck like that, it's really difficult actually to play chords on it like that. But a lot easier like that. So yeah, those are the two main differences in those two acoustic guitars. So if you're just starting out on acoustic guitar, first thing you're going to need is an acoustic guitar. You don't need to spend a lot of money, but what you do need to have is a well set up acoustic guitar. So I've been playing guitar all my life, and there are instruments that I can pick up, whether it's used or brand new, doesn't matter, okay? That I physically cannot play, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the guitar. I would say 80% of guitars that you see secondhand, used, and in a music store are not set up correctly. Most of the time when you pick up a guitar in a music store and it feels nice to you, it really has nothing to do with the guitar itself, but everything to do with the actual setup of the guitar. And when I say setup, I'm talking about the height of the strings off the fretboard. So that is super important. You can see how close they are with mine. You don't want it too close, okay? But you definitely want to have that adjusted by a professional. You see here my bridge. A lot of times the bridge will, or sorry, the saddle will need to come out and get sanded down so that the strings sit lower. And then I did also describe that this guitar has a truss rod. There's a lot of tension on this guitar, and the strings on it are actually pulling. They want to pull this neck right off the guitar. I don't know the actual numbers, but when these strings are all at tension here, yeah, there's a lot of downward pressure on this soundboard and a lot of pulling pressure this way, because it's pulling the neck. And so we have to have a counteracting force, and that's what the purpose of the truss rod. If the truss rod's not adjusted properly, what you end up is a neck that's shaped like a banana, and your strings are that far off the fretboard, and it's impossible to play. Not only that, you won't be able to tune the guitar, and it's just going to sound terrible. So yeah, you really need the guitar to be set up properly. That is crucial, no matter what guitar you get. The tuning pegs should be good quality, and they should be tight. So these have a 10 millimeter nut that holds this tuning key on, and a lot of guitars that's loose, and it creates a lot of problems with tuning and all that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure these are all nice and tight. Maybe I'll do a video on guitar maintenance as well for you guys. Now this guitar is a Norman acoustic made by the Godin guitar company in Quebec, and they make a few brands. They make Norman, Art and Lutherie, Siegel, and Simon and Patrick, and La Patrie, I think. Those family of guitars are absolutely excellent. Wonderful guitars, very competitively priced, very good starter acoustic. Now, I've had all the expensive acoustics, Taylor, Taylor, Martin, and I've owned them all, and they're no better than this guitar right here. Really, honestly, like, this guitar here sounds just as good as a Taylor. I think it sounds way better, and you know, it plays. It really is not about the guitar. It's really all about the setup of the particular guitar. I've played on some really cheap guitars, and because I'm a technician and I know how to set them up, I can make a really, really cheap guitar sound really great. So it's kind of like you can have a $100,000 Steinway piano, but if it's not regulated, tuned, and adjusted properly, it's gonna sound terrible. It's gonna play horribly, right? So really, just get a decent quality guitar. I would highly recommend this brand here. This guitar is a Norman B20. You could pick them up used, but again, you gotta be really, really, really careful buying a used guitar. Most of them have been neglected, and they've been sitting in a basement somewhere, and the neck is bent, and you'll never be able to play that guitar. It's a waste of money. So you need to get it set up properly, and you have to make sure that you have somebody that knows about guitars before you purchase a guitar. And yeah, so anyways, so that's enough of that. Once you've bought an acoustic guitar and had it set up properly, and it's nice and easy to play, then you could get to practicing. There's a